You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook, we are YBM Chat Podcast. Instagram at YBM Chat. You can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts at YBM Chat.
Hey, it's Dashia D.
Hey, it's Cassondra.
Hey y'all, it's Tre'Dub.
Your girl LadiiNova.
And we are
YBM Chat.
young Black millennials offering you a fresh new take you didn't know you needed. So today, we have a special guest with us today, Ciera Jones. She's going to be joining us for the remainder of the podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, so yes, like Dashia said, my name is Ciera Jones, and I am currently in Washington, D.C. I lived in Charleston for about 10 years, not from there. Went there for college in 2009 and stayed until March 13th of this year. I am a social worker. I just passed my LI exam. Fully independent, licensed social worker. I currently work with the DC Attorney General as a victim witness specialist. And I am very interested in mental health, particularly with Black women, adverse childhood experiences, domestic violence. Those are all and just violence and crime in general. Those are my areas of interest and expertise so far in my career.
So we are excited to have her today because she's definitely going to add a lot of knowledge. I know we had opinions, but she's going to add a lot of knowledge to our topic later on. Y'all want to go ahead and get into it?
Boy! So the first thing we're going to talk about is somewhat important. Well, not really, but whatever. Anywho, so an update on our little coronavirus pandemic. So just want to start off with talking about not ours, but the New York governor, Andrew, can't pronounce his last name.
Cuomo.
Let's see. What'd you say?
Cuomo.
There you go. So he is now going to extend the stay-at-home order to now June 13th. I'm not sure when it was what it was before, but now he's going to extend out to June 13th, which is, I mean, surprisingly good, being that they are one of the largest populations of the country. So, it's a good thing. And then also what I want to talk about is here in Georgia, they are now going to go back to having people taking the driving test, which should have been done in the first place, because whatever Governor Kemp got going on, apparently he said he's receiving a lot of backlash. So now he decided to go back around to a normal state to now let people take the driving test so they can get their license after 20,000 people already done got theirs from not taking it.
How many?
20,000.
So
That's
people were
ridiculous.
getting their license without taking the driving test.
Yep.
Driving
maybe
was
like
no longer required to, take the test. You just
Georgia.
the paper. And
So are they now going to go back and now retest all 20,000 people? Or
I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. It's kind of like those 20,000 just got lucky. So now moving forward, if you happen to be at the DMV, I don't know what type of precautions that they're taking due to the coronavirus going on at the DMVs or whatever.
You got to stand in little boxes.
Exactly. So you got to schedule an appointment. I don't know, but
And y'all's traffic is already crazy. The driving in Georgia is already crazy. So y'all adding 20,000 more.
Crazy. And then Atlanta just opened up like a couple of weeks ago, and like some of the restaurants are opening up now. Like we're strictly under certain precautions, but still it's kind of like, well, traffic is coming back slowly. So it's like
That's sad. Yeah, and I heard North Carolina extended their hours too. I mean, they're closed off too.
Orders.
Yeah, that.
Mm-hmm.
them in Los Angeles as well, I think.
So did DC.
DC extended theirs too, right, Ciera?
Mm-hmm. We until at least they put that in there, at least June 8th.
Mm.
So a couple of weeks in it.
Yeah, that's not far. That's not.
But I feel like they're going to extend it again.
After that,
and this is mainly pertaining to like government, like my job, and like because we're heavily dependent on the courts, and so right now we're having court hearings via WebEx. Can't use Zoom because Zoom bombers and all that stuff. So,
I never thought about that.
That makes sense here.
Oh gosh. I mean, for those of you who do not know, Boosie paid a girl to, have oral relations with his son, his 13, 14-year-old son. And this is a grown woman. And I feel like people try to normalize it because it's Boosie or because of the double standard. Like, guys do this. If a little boy gets an older girl, then he cool or he the man. But if a young girl gets an older man, or he's a pedophile. And it's horrible. Either way it goes, either way you look at it is rape and it's not fair. But we're going to leave that right there because...
No. It blows my mind.
I feel like y'all should talk about that.
Yeah, that blows my mind that he pretty much paid somebody to rape a child. And yet he gets on a video and talks about Dwayne Wade's parenting because Dwayne Wade allows his child to be herself. That's what I don't understand. And people are praising him. That's rape. It doesn't matter how you try to spin it. I don't care how much money he makes. I don't care that it was a boy. That's rape.
Before I say my part, I would like for the guest to say something where I just act like she's not here.
I mean, I've been reacting with my facial expressions this entire time. No, but that situation, like the fact that y'all were about to like blow that over and then I wasn't aware. I don't follow whoever. I don't even know who that is, to be honest with you.
Boosie badass.
He's a rapper.
Boosie badass.
Like,
all right.
I don't know if his songs, but
anyway, based on just the snippet of information that y'all provided, that was absolutely inappropriate, and she and Boosie should be held accountable because that was definitely rape.
Yeah.
And not okay. And it's going to have an impact on him. How old is the son?
I think
so. He's like 13, 14. But okay, and here's my thing. I feel like nobody's thinking. I don't understand because I feel like, of course, I don't agree with it at all. But I feel like he looks at it as, oh, I'm the man. I got this older girl, And that's what his.
And that's just going to
Boosie
continue the whole cycle of toxic masculinity in generations to come. Like, that's just confirming in his mind that this sort of behavior is okay.
That's what I'm saying. So I feel like if they don't see nothing wrong with it, then I feel like, especially if Boosie don't see nothing wrong with it, his son don't see nothing wrong with it. Of course, everybody else is outraged. And I've never heard any of his songs, or that song in particular, but somebody said that it was one song he rapped about it, his son being 7 and getting oral pleasures from a girl. And everybody was saying, oh, it's just a rap song, it's just a rap song. But I'm like, okay, even if it's just a song, why would you rap that? Take that line out, you know what I'm saying? So it was true. And he would always brag about it and say this happened. But at the same time, it's like, if he don't see nothing wrong with it, I truly feel like it's not going to change. And he's just going to defend it and try to twist it and make himself seem right and that it's okay.
You need to be.
I mean, it's not at all.
Protective services.
So here's
that's child abuse. So like we said in the previous episode, this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think June is Mental Health Awareness Month specifically for the Black community, if I'm not mistaken. But we're going to continue the conversation today. But we want to kind of target mental health specifically in the Black community. So why do you guys feel like the topic of mental health is taboo in the Black community?
So I think that definitely, like, in my experience, it's definitely been an issue or a taboo in the Black community because, like, we were all raised a certain way. We were all, well, no, I wouldn't even say a certain way. I would say we were all raised the same way in that perspective to know that if you have an issue, like, especially as a man, we bottle that shit up and just, like, basically man up.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have any issues, it was never, well, oh, don't cry about it. Don't be a quote unquote sissy or girl about it. Just man up and just move forward or fight it off or just fight the person whoever pissed you off or whatever. Like that was the mentality growing up. And like, so I think Dashia mentioned in one of our previous episodes that it lacks sensitivity in the black male community.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so like, we have to bottle up all of our issues and just like, man up and just move forward and just don't say nothing, or just teach us how to fight so we can beat up the person out in the middle of the street.
Ooh.
So
Those are
go ahead.
those are definitely like some of the barriers, and I think that a lot of the barriers lead to it being such a taboo topic in Black communities. And the reason it's so taboo is because, well, part of how I think about it is I think about things from a historical standpoint. So you go all the way back to slavery, and then just think about how we've become who we are. I'll wind down. Think about who we are or who we've been from that timeline, from slavery on to where we are now. And it's sort of like we're already seen in this negative light, and we've been seen in this negative light since we were forced to come here. So it's sort of like having a mental health illness or a mental health problem or anything dealing with mental health has this negative connotation. So it's like one more thing to hold against us as Black people. And so it's like we don't want to be associated with that. It makes us look weaker. It makes us look less of a man, less of a woman. We're not strong enough. We can't handle our own. We can't do what we're supposed to be doing in our household. I mean, sure, you can have the mental health problem as long as you don't, put it out there. And it's just, I think it's so taboo because it to the outside world, it changes our image, the image that we want to be seen as, which is who we actually are. But that's a little piece of what I think about that, but I'll let y'all continue.
Ooh, I love y'all answers. I didn't think about it that way. When I first read that question, I thought about like religion was the first thing that came to my mind. So anytime, especially if you got like your mom or your grandma, or whoever, you tell them you got a problem, their first answer is to pray about it. You know what I'm saying? And prayer, of course, is always the best thing, but we was also taught, okay, prayer without works is dead. I mean, faith without works is dead. So it's like you can't pray and then expect things to change without doing the work, And I think a lot of people don't think about that. They just say, oh, pray it off, you'll be fine. Or if it doesn't work or you have a mental illness, you're not praying enough, you're not praying hard enough, so.
And I agree with everyone that spoke before me. So religion-wise, it's always been the same thing for me. I'm 24 and I'm just getting to a place where I'm letting my folks know I have social anxiety. And it's like, oh, and it's not a bad thing when they're like, no, you don't. It's like, I do. We just don't talk about it because I don't share. I'm just now with y'all as my friends sharing like reasons why I'm upset, why I feel like I couldn't finish school or why I just stopped doing schoolwork because I was so stressed out with stuff. I'm still, I won't say apprehensive about going to see a therapist, but it's a thought, or at least I'm more open to voicing my feelings with my friends and my partner. That's the most at this point that I can do. But as far as it being taboo, I agree with Cassondra, Ciera, and Tre'Dub, especially with Ciera, because I think it was, who was it? Comedian LaBelle Crawford. He said that in one of his sets. He was like, in the Black family, you can have somebody slow and they'll tell you real quick, don't be acting slow in front of company. It's like, how are you going to tell somebody not to be themselves? Like, they can't control that. Like, what do you want them to do? Oh, he acting retarded again. It's like, he's being him. So now when they go out, it's like, do you acknowledge that they might have an issue, or are they mentally really just down? You can't say in the Black family that you're depressed, because then it's another thing of what you got to be depressed about. Like, what do you mean? It's a lot I can be depressed about. It's a lot to be sad over. And especially in the Black house, whatever happens in that house, you have to keep it in the house. You can't go even to other family members and be like, hey, this is the problem I have with this person and this person. I don't understand why. Nope, you got a problem, keep it in this house. Okay, you can keep it in the house, and when I talk to you about it, it goes right back to religion. We need to pray about it and make sure, ain't no demons, nothing following you.
Gotta fix it.
Exactly, and I'm not saying that, it's not an option, but everything can't be a demon. Not everything.
So piggybacking off of everyone, I would say pretty much what y'all have already said. I feel like the reason why Black families or parents tend to be dismissive is because we're expected to be resilient people. So we can't struggle, we can't be depressed, we can't be sad, because we know how to push through and just keep it moving and set our feelings to the side, when in reality that's just not healthy, because it just causes things to become worse, and then it just causes things to become worse, and you can't really function in a healthy way or a healthy manner. Even when big tragedies happen, so like the church shooting, it's almost like the church shooting, or when that shooting happened with the guy in Texas with the police officer, and they hugged the shooter, and everybody's like, or the brother was like, I forgive you. Or the church shooting happened, and the day after we're having a bridge walk. Why do we have to jump? Why can't we have a moment to just feel our feelings and be sad and angry and whatever the case may be? I feel like we're expected to just jump from this to, all right, we gotta keep it pushing, keep it moving, because I don't know, that's just the pattern that we've been in. But as far as the whole keeping things in the house, again, I feel like that's just dismissive, and it teaches kids that if something happens, it's not okay to go and advocate for yourself and protect yourself and make sure that you're safe. I feel like that was all the things I jotted down. Pray about it. Huh? Well, because I didn't want to forget, because there was so many different things.
Word.
The whole pray about it thing, again, that's dismissive. Yes, that might be a coping skill for some people. That does not work for everyone. Not everyone follows a specific religion. Not everyone believes in God. Some people might want to journal. Some people might want to meditate. Some people might believe in mindfulness. So yes, that's my 2 cents on that. So I feel like the reasons why it's taboo could play into the barriers for receiving mental health treatment. What do you guys feel like are other things that play into that?
Trust, or the lack of it. When I think of mental health, I automatically then think of mental health treatment, and then I think of the Black community's distrust of medical professionals as a whole, and then specifically with mental health professionals. First of all, there aren't that many Black ones, and second of all,
hello.
Huh?
I said hello.
Right. Yeah. So there aren't that many Black ones. So you're talking to this white person who you don't feel comfortable with. And I'm gonna say a personal experience of mine. I was in therapy my whole senior year of college, because what I didn't know was I did have a mental health diagnosis, and I knew that I needed something, but it took me forever to go. But I finally did go. And the first day on that couch, I was like, I don't trust you. You're gonna have to work for it, because I know I'm just another story for you to go home and tell to whoever you live with. And we ended up having a really good relationship. I saw her after I left college and everything, but even for me, someone who is quote unquote aware of these sorts of things, I was like, yeah, nah. Like, if I were to go to see a therapist now, I would definitely want to see a person of color. I look for that in most of my medical providers now. And it's hard, but there's this book that I highly recommend. It's called Medical Apartheid. And it talks about, it pretty much breaks down why Black people don't trust anything medical, including mental health, because of all the experimentation and all the horrible things that people did in the name of science to Black people trying to figure things out with the body, and then became like the father of gynecology, for example. So distrust is one barrier. 2, religion can be a barrier, because I know I was raised in a house. I was a PK. So I was raised in a house. I was a PK
too.
until they got divorced. So I was a PK, and so it was pretty much God way or no way. And it's like, okay, so if I do this, am I displeasing God? Am I going to go to hell? Like, that stuff really messes with your head. And so it's like, if I'm trying to better myself, I'm trying to get the help that I need, but on the same hand, they're saying I should trust in God and pray and do all of this to help me with my situation. So it's sort of like a double-edged sword. It's like, if I go with God, then I'm not really getting all the help that I need. And then if I get the medical help, then God isn't, then it's like I'm ignoring God, and then he's going to send me to hell, and it's hot down there, and I don't want to. So, I mean, and then it's just a generational, I don't want to say curse, but it's the only thing that comes to my head right now, just of, again, it being passed down. Like, this is something that bothers us. We don't have depression in this family. We don't do that. No, we don't do that. We don't, medication, what you need to pray. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. And so it's like, you're constantly being told that you don't need something, and that's further perpetuating the problem or issue or whatever it is that's bothering you, and the very thing that you need help with. So a barrier can be, your support system can be a barrier, because you go to your support system for help, like, hey, Ma, I've got depression and anxiety. And she's like, we don't do that. What is that? Depression, anxiety? No, we don't do that here. And so it's like, well, what are you supposed to do? Because even in mental health therapy, counseling, one of the main things is identifying your support system to, help you through whatever kind of treatment plan that you put in place with the person that you're working with. They should know all about treatment plans and support systems.
Yeah.
I'm saying these words, I'm looking right at her, because I'm like, this is her life, not mine. I don't do therapy. So I don't know, family, support system, distrust, barriers is just society as a whole. Racism, the whole idea of being is a barrier. Being Black is a barrier. It just is what it is, and I'll leave that there. And you actually brought up a good point earlier when you started talking, was about basically accessibility to care and to these services. Like, especially now, like, it was a barrier before, but particularly now with the current situation, everybody's moving to telehealth and doing therapy on a computer. How are you supposed to do that if you don't have internet, or if you are in the woods, and even if you have internet, it ain't that good, or just living in a rural place and having to drive, like you said, like 45 minutes an hour to get to the provider that you're working with. It just doesn't work, especially with gentrification being the way that it is now, pretty much in every metropolitan city in the country. So it's like we're being pushed out to the point where we can't get help even if we wanted it.
Not only that, but if you don't have health care, then you won't be able to afford a therapist, because it is very expensive to have a therapy session. It can be $150 for 45 minutes to talk to someone.
I'm under my father's insurance. I don't know what. I'm under my father's insurance by the grace of God for like another year. So simple things such as my eyes checking everything. I'm like, I don't know. Do y'all take this? I'm like, we do, but it's what type does he have? I'm like, nigga, I don't know. It's on the card. Look, read.
Check.
Touching on the telehealth thing. So if you don't know, I do family counseling, and it is very challenging to do family counseling via Zoom, Skype, or some of them, if they don't have internet, it is a nice little phone call. Okay. Now, my youngest client is 6 years old. The oldest one is 15. And I can't talk too much about things that happen because it's confidential, but I will say this. It is very hard to talk about traumatic experiences via Zoom or via a phone call. People need face-to-face. They need you to be fully present with them. And so it has just been a rough road having to do telehealth with people who don't have, like you said, Wi-Fi, and I'm talking to you on the phone about something traumatic that happened to you years ago. You're crying and I can't be there for you.
I 100% relate. Like I said earlier, I work with the Attorney General's office, so I work with attorneys, and I work with the basically I have to talk to victims of crime or the family members of decedents of crime, as in murder victims. I've had a few of those. So I'm talking to these families whose loved one has been killed on the phone a day after it happened.
Right.
Or we're having to do a hearing, a court hearing via WebEx for someone who has been killed. So it's hard. It's hard. It's so impersonal. I don't know.
I want to say it sounds very insensitive, because if I'm going to talk to you about certain things that are like this, that traumatize and all this, I need to see your body language and all that. If I'm on the phone having this conversation, I don't know what you're doing, and in my head, you're not listening. You probably over there playing Toon Blast or something.
No, I'm at my desk. But, no.
Right.
No, not you, but just
don't know.
Person, Jenna just over there flipping in the Rolodex, like, I don't know who I got to add to or to take off.
But she just painting her nails.
You know.
And don't mind me.
Rearranging my desktop. I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to talk to you about something that's been bothering me for quite some time, I have to sit here and look at you, not even just look at you, but watch your body language. Because you'll have people that, again, me, for example, I'm just remembering things that happened from when I was a kid. And I'm like, dang, I wonder why nobody talked about that. And I was like, no, you didn't have the discussion? Absolutely not. It's like it never happened. So here we are.
I personally don't think that this current situation is going to change anytime soon, whether we like it or not. I mean, it's going to be going on until at least 2021. So, I mean, that's just because they're already saying there's going to be another outbreak in the fall. So it's like,
my birthday's in November. Please don't.
Mine is too.
Don't do that to us.
So it's like, bringing it back to mental health and Black people in particular, how we were talking about distrust and access and all of these other things. It's like, how is that going to? I feel like that's not going to help the situation any.
Oh no.
Okay, so I just had two separate things. So one, I went to 2 counseling sessions when I was in college because they were free, and my last semester was horrible. I was taking 21 credit hours. I was an RA, and I was still working, and I had different sessions. It was like a lot, too much going on, whatever.
God bless you.
And thanks. And when I went to the lady, of course, like they didn't have any women of color available, and so I went to the one lady that was available, and it almost seemed very insensitive to me. That's just how it seemed. So I kind of sat there and told her what was wrong, and it almost felt like, oh, you poor thing, almost like I feel so sorry for you. And maybe I just had like a bad experience, but after those 2, I just was like, this just isn't for me. I just don't really want to go back.
And then that's another thing. People relate one experience to all the possible.
Yeah, and so it's like everything.
Yeah, so if you have one negative experience, it's like you're done.
Mm-hmm. And I try not to think like that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I can't help but think she felt sorry for me, So I would always feel like that about other people. And then the second thing is, my friends know I try not to. I rarely, rarely, rarely come to you guys about my problem. And maybe this is just me personally. I feel like a bother. And I don't know if that's a barrier for other people too, but I feel like everybody has this situation going on. Yeah, okay, y'all are social workers. Y'all get paid to do this. But at the same time, y'all still got your own problems going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have to call you and be like, look, this is what's going on, And I know, like, to y'all, it might sound ridiculous because this is your entire job. But for me, it's like, I feel like I'm just another person, you know what I mean? Like, bringing on problems or stuff that I feel like I should be able to handle on my own. I just don't want to burden somebody else.
But seriously, don't shit on yourself. So, do you feel like you truly think that you're just another person to them, or is that what you tell yourself because it's more comfortable for you to just not go?
I feel like it's more comfortable for me to not go, only because I don't want to feel like a burden to somebody else, especially because everybody has their own problem. And like I said, y'all are social workers, so to y'all it's like that sounds
I
absolutely
hear that
ridiculous.
all the time. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And so that's why, and you can ask them, like, I don't come to them and be like, let me tell y'all what's going on, you know? And I love when people come to me because it's like, you know, let me help you. Like, you're my friend. I love you. But when I have problems, I just feel like, well, dang, here she come again. I don't want to be that person that, oh, she calling my phone. I know she, you know what I mean? Like,
Do you think you're taking up space from someone else to talk about their problems?
so no, I feel like, I don't know. And I had this conversation with my mama a few months ago because if y'all know me, like, I'm naturally super chipper. And I would say about 95% of the time, it is legit and it's genuine, you know? But that 5%, it's like, if I'm not okay, then everybody's like, you know, well, what's wrong? Or you need to be. And I feel like I can't be not okay. You know, like I feel like I never get a chance to not be okay because it's like, oh, you're always chipper. You're always on 10, you know? So.
So literally everything Cassondra said, she hit it on the head for me. Because it's kind of like, I used to have this mentality where like, if I were to say my problems, I feel like I'm a burden. Not specifically for like a mental health professional, but just in general to friends, you know? So it's like when me personally, recently I started becoming the person to like openly talk about my problems, not with everybody clearly, but like just for like, you know, specific people that I felt like I can get, you know, good feedback from. Like, you can ask these three here. I just recently, ever since I started moving here, I just recently started like, you know, open up with them about like relationships or like just about like, you know, stuff that's going on in my life currently or about my job or stuff like that. That's a conversation I would never have with like anybody up until now, you know? And literally like Cassondra said, I just feel like I'm just a burden on people. And me personally, and probably for most Black males, we've been raised up to handle our own problems on our own, you know? So it's like, we can't talk about it because we seem too much like a P word. And I mean, just being real here. So it's like, you know, like, and like I said,
And they grow up to become emotionally unavailable men, but
Exactly. So I mean, like these three will tell you here, I've come to each and every one of these three women and tell them about like my personal issues again, or like a relationship or like just personal issues or whatever now. But like I said, when I was raised up, I would never talk about none of these stuff when I was in high school or like in middle school or whatever, because again, it was just the mentality that most Black men had then, where it's like, well, you had to fight it off, or you had to like, you know, just man up and just suck it in and stuff like. When Cassondra said that about like, you know, not being a burden on your friends, that really like hit me to the heart, because that's literally how I felt. Like even my friends here in Ciera, I have friends here that are like, you know, 30 plus.
I know you got a bunch of friends. I heard.
Just out here with the buddies.
Old, young, you talk about them all the time.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, they are like, you know, already kind of settled into their life. They got their own careers, got their own problems. So it's like, what the hell do they want to hear from a 24-year-old about their little bitty issues, you know? So that's kind of like the mentality I have in my mind that I'm slowly getting out of. I really am. So that's kind of like the perspective from my end.
I'm about to say it's crazy because I have people that's like maybe 4 years older than me. But yeah, I've had people that's like, oh, I had the situation, I've been through this, I don't even know why you're bickering about it. And I'm like, okay, that was you. You did that out of sheer stupidity. I just happened to land in this. Maybe it's my life lesson and I'm struggling. But for you to tell somebody like, oh, I went through this and you shouldn't have no problem getting out of it, and it's like, why are you even talking to me?
And
that's another thing of distrust.
They have to consider that they're already out of it. So they're not really thinking about what they went through to get out of it.
And that's how I feel too with, you know, what I mentioned, like I have, you know, older friends.
So like some people are just jerks that way, whereas other people, they'll understand and they'll remember. It's just a matter of, you know, finding those people.
Right. So the last barrier that I was going to mention, not even just like for like Black men, but just like, you know, families, both Black families in general, is like maybe the family dynamic. Like me personally, like everyone in my family is like hard down basketball athletes or football athletes or whatever. So it's like if I come and say, hey, I want to run track, or if I want to play soccer, it's definitely like super dismissive. Like maybe I won't have as much support at a game as like as much as my brother when he's, you know, going to national championships with basketball and, you know, football scholarships and all that jazz, stuff like that. So I think that may have something to do with like the mental health barrier, or just feeling accepted, because you're like the one Black sheep of the family that doesn't want to, you know, do the things that everyone else did, you know. And that's just a story for me personally. So that could be one thing that kind of made me feel like, well, just because I didn't follow the footsteps of my brother or the footsteps of my mother or uncle, whatever the case may be, it made me kind of feel less than, or didn't even want to talk to them about it, you know? So that definitely could be a barrier based off of the family dynamic of how, you know, each person of a Black community or Black family is raised. So yeah.
I can understand that, because I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in my family who's in therapy. And when I decided to go to therapy, some of the reactions were kind of like, really? You seem pretty healthy, or you seem fine. Like, why do you need therapy? That you're not bad off. And honestly, I've seen a meme before that says people go to therapy to deal with the people in their family who aren't in it.
Oh,
dang. I'll leave that there. But yes, so I completely understand that when you are a person who's open about your feelings, or you might seem a little more sensitive, you might think that you're the outcast because you're the one person who wants to actually do something about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you guys think the cycle can be broken? After everything we just talked about, stigma, accessibility, just the different barriers that come in the way with receiving mental health treatment, how do you feel like this cycle can be broken so that it doesn't continue to go on to the next generation?
Talking about it. Let people know it is okay to seek therapy. Letting our kids know it is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think it starts with us. Like when we start having kids, my mom was never the type that'll be like, oh, you don't need that, or what is depression? But I think us as a whole, like letting people know it is okay. Don't be like who the people that we heard that from, you know? Don't tell people to just pray about it. You'll be fine. Encourage people to go to counseling. Encourage people to say it is okay. You don't have to sit there and be strong and resilient and take everything and hold it in. You don't have to do that. Just go to counseling. It is okay.
Yeah. Sounds so sweet.
It is so sweet. I think like kind of piggyback on what Cassondra said, I really think that having that conversation is really kind of like the goal to, you know, really like kind of get into that level. Now, I will say that this generation as millennials is definitely like the stepping stone to getting there, because like now a lot of millennials are actually voluntarily going to therapy, like Cassondra said, or like I think Dashia, you have a therapist, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, us like being into having that conversation, or just letting people know that, hey, I see a therapist, even though I look like I got it all together. Shit, I'm talking on someone's couch too, you know, like. So I really think that this generation is definitely like the head start to making that change to, you know, making it more apparent to have those conversations with a professional. So yeah.
It's okay to not be okay. You find somebody that you're very comfortable with, and I feel like you're trustworthy to talk to, it is fine. And that's just it. Therapy is there if you want to, like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they got games and stuff for kids at this point to try to like figure this stuff out. So that's pretty much it. It's okay to not be okay. You ain't got to have it all together immediately. Especially when you get older, because that is a struggle in itself to think like, oh, as soon as I get out of college, this got to be happening. It's not, because I'm proof of that. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And I don't know if you guys were taught. I know I wasn't. I was always taught, okay, we get out of college, everything's just gonna fall into place. You're gonna be exactly who you have to be as soon as you graduate. So I walk across that stage and I'm like, all right, what now? And so it's like, well, dang. And it makes you feel some type of way because it's like, you don't have it together. And I was supposed to. And nobody taught us that it's okay to not have it together.
And it is. And I mean, like briefly, I'll say this. Like when I was in college, I was crossing AK Psi, Alpha Kappa Psi, professional business.
I'm in AK Psi.
Really? Oh my God, Psi. All right. So
that's what I'm in.
But no, so like during my time, like crossing over into that business fraternity or whatever. So, and you and I, by the way. So
you and I, bro.
So during that time, like that was really kind of like where it kind of jump started me to like let people know that hey, I'm not the only one that has issues. Like during that time, we talked about a lot of things like within our pledge class. And it was like, people that went through a lot of stuff way worse than what I could ever go through as a Black man. So it's like, that was kind of the stepping stone for me to kind of like have those conversations, to like be open and be honest with people, like what I had going on. So I say all that to say, support groups, organizations, if you happen to be in those, have those conversations, because you never know, someone might need to listen to that story that you need to say.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Mm.
And just real fast, I'll say too, I think us not, okay, so when you have your kids, don't spread the business to other family members. And I think LadiiNova touched on this earlier. I'm pretty sure we've all had situations, and not even going to your parents to confide in them, but say you acted up in school, your mama done tell handle me acting up in school. How you gonna handle me coming to you telling you I'm depressed? Because I can hear now on the phone, oh mama, she done come to me, so it's like in that right there, or don't chastise it, especially not to other family members.
Please don't.
It's annoying. Highly.
I was like, is it my turn?
Yes,
ma'am.
So this one is about how to break the cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very difficult question for me, and it always is and has been a difficult question for me in presentations and papers and everything. You always have to come up with some kind of resolutions to whatever it is that you're talking about or presenting about or whatevering about. So for this, it's like I see it two ways. I see what could happen, but I also see what could stop that from happening. So it's like I'm thinking about the micro system, meso, macro, everything. It starts with ourselves and our family and working outward. But then I also think about the things that could be put in place on a policy level that could make things more accessible to us as a culture. But then I think about, again, going back to the very beginning of this conversation, going back to a historical context, you have to change the mindset of people to sort of, because this is a part of systemic racism. How do you address systemic racism? Do you ever really get rid of it? So in a sense, whenever I think about this question, it's like, how do you address this issue while also knowing that systemic racism is there? And I don't really know the answer to that question.
I don't either. But when you talked about the different systems, and I don't know if it's necessarily like a meso system or micro. I think it's meso. I think about schools because I work with families. Yeah, and thinking about the school system, a lot of times when you see kids who have challenging behaviors such as fighting or bullying other kids, a lot of times we jump to punishing kids when we should be pulling them in to try to figure out the root of the issue, because anger is a secondary emotion. So a lot of times I have kids who pretty much cuss me out or get close to it, And so I asked them,
I
like,
love when
wow.
they cuss me out. That's the best part.
So there needs to be more education for teachers about
Oh, absolutely.
not leaning towards punishment, but trying to, I know that's a lot to ask of teachers, I know, but not leaning so much towards punishment, but trying to understand what is the root issue that's happening. Also having social workers in the school. They have like a social worker per 5 schools. That's ridiculous. There should be a social worker and a mental health counselor in each school, not a guidance counselor. Guidance counselors work on grades in college. They don't talk about emotions and trauma and things like that. So yes, I feel like something needs to happen in the school. As far as policies go, I don't really know where to start with that. That's not my expertise. But I do agree that as far as like insurance goes, it needs to just be more accessible to people so that they can actually afford to have therapy.
I mean, as far as like a policy level, that's shooting for the stars. Like we have to start at the bottom, like micro, meso, getting into the schools. As far as the teachers, I think there's a lot of unconscious bias training that needs to occur with the teachers, because you have a lot of white teachers in these predominantly Black public schools, particularly in Charleston, who don't know who the heck they dealing with. And it's like they don't understand it. They don't realize that maybe they do have this unconscious bias when a 10-year-old girl comes and cusses them out. Like, and she's like, oh, this kid is bad and is gonna fail in life, and I don't know what to do. I'm scared of her. Like, whereas I would be like, little girl, what what's your deal? Like,
and also just going back to the school thing, like I feel like emotional intelligence or anything dealing with checking in with yourself should be a part of the school day. I feel like so many adults don't have the language to tell you how they feel.
Right.
If you are not taught that as a child, how are you expected to check in with yourself and even know where to begin? I mean, I ask kids on a regular, like, what do you feel in your body when you get upset? If you don't know what triggers you, how can you help yourself? Like, how can you even figure out ways to cope with whatever if you don't even know what triggers you? You just going off on people left and right. Same thing for parents. If they're not taught that, how can they teach their child that?
They can't.
That was a lot. But
look at y'all. That's why y'all get paid the big dollars for this. Y'all go ahead.
Because I forgot.
Right.
I was just about to say some other things y'all can talk about: white tears and the white savior complex.
Lord.
She said
I would listen to those.
But yeah, that goes back to jumping to like the punishment and not checking in with people. But that could also go into a whole tangent about teachers being overworked and having too much going on. And in the moment, you might just be really stressed out. Huh?
I said, and then the class sizes.
Exactly. And so you might just be stressed out and you don't feel like having a deep conversation. You're just like, you know what, Tyrone? Get out my face.
Get out.
I'm done. So.
I'm gonna just say this really, really, really quick. Even though, so I work at a preschool, and that's something that we as teachers are taught. So even as a 1-year-old, okay, a child is biting, you can't look at the child and be like, oh, you're biting, go to timeout or no recess. You know what I'm saying? So for that, it's like, okay, well, why? What are the other issues? So it's always like, they took my toy or they're too close, you know? So even as a teeny tiny child, like Dashia said, okay, anger is the second reaction. So it's like, okay, yeah, they're mad, let me lash out, but think about why that is. So because we are taught to,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nothing. I was about to say we are taught to look more into the issue, not just the outcome and then punishment.
Right. I was gonna say, so Cassondra, you have tried therapy, you weren't a fan, and then Trey, I don't know that you're thinking about therapy, but it's something that you have been hesitant to do, or at least talking to people. Based, like, as far as the whole breaking the cycle thing, what is it that you two feel like you need in order to seek help from someone? because you might represent a lot of the people who are listening. So what is it that you feel like you would need in order to say, you know what, I could use someone to talk to? Or not even to talk to, but I need to figure out what's going on with me. I need to check in with myself. This is what I need to do about it.
So for me to answer the question about like what it would take for me to open up is definitely having that person that may or well may relate to some aspect of what I'm going through, you know. And it's like, you know, having that initial openness really helps me as well. Like, because other than the three of y'all, I definitely have a close friend here that I talk to about, like, you know, certain adulting things that have been going on since I moved here to Atlanta. So I think that for me personally is definitely that openness, and definitely, like, you know, maybe you relate to it in some way, shape, or form, so you can, like, actually, like, you know, it could definitely help me in some way, you know. So that's kind of the advice that I would say. Hopefully that makes sense. So
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Cassondra?
Probably having somebody relatable. So I talked to Chad about a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, pretty much everything. But outside of him, I would like to talk to somebody like my mom. Of course, she's my mom and she's a social worker, but I feel like that's still my mama. And I don't want to go to her about my problems or everything I got going on. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if we can be relatable, I mean, not trying to sound bad or racist, but I would like a Black lady as a
That's not bad or
counselor,
racist.
you know? Okay, well, thank you so very much.
Black people can't be racist. It's impossible.
well, yeah, that topic. But then it's like, I do want to have somebody that can relate more to me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, and like Ciera said, if I'm upset about something, it's not, oh, you know, you don't understand, or poor little thing. You know, like, let's talk about this from a relatable, I guess, standpoint.
Okay. Anyone else?
That's a great question.
That was a good question. Yeah, because like like I said, like in Dish, you were right. I really am looking forward or looking more into like talking to someone professionally about like, you know, like especially adulting up until now. Like I can't, you know, keep on bombarding my friends and stuff like that. Well, even though I like do that sometimes now, but certain people. Like, But I feel like the fact that I'm like open to having those conversations with certain people now is definitely like, you know, a good step forward that I'm taking into having those conversations as a Black man, you know. So, you know, me out here in Atlanta by myself, it's like a lot of stuff that I keep bottled up. So it's like I don't have family out here, so I have no choice but to like go to friends. So when I do talk to certain people, I'm very selective about who I talk to about that. For me, that's kind of like the first step. So yeah.
Okay. So what I'm taking away from all of this is that we need to check in with ourselves. It's okay to feel your feelings. And also try to figure out, you know, what works for you to cope with that. Whether that's journaling, whether that's art, exercise, mindfulness, whatever that may be. If you're interested in therapy, I would say if you have insurance, go to your insurance company's website. And they tend to have the list of providers that are within your network so that they can help with that, and you just have a copay. If not, there are things like, I think it's called BetterHelp and Talkspace, where they offer telehealth. I don't think it's in person, but that could be a start. Does anyone else have any other kind of resources that you know of off the top of your head?
There's an app called The Safe Place. It's it was an app designed specifically for Black mental health, and they talk about things like mental health in the church, and they give like quotes and their information on other podcasts and everything that talk about mental health in particular. And then there's Black Mental Health Alliance that you can look at for resources too.
Also, on Instagram, there's a page called Therapy for Black Girls. They have a podcast, they have an Instagram, and then right now they're doing group sessions, I should say, every Tuesday. But I'll put it in the link in the description box.
And the thing about Black Mental Health Alliance is that if you are interested in connecting with a therapist, they can, if the therapist is, you know, associated with it, you can look for one if you're looking for a person of color.
You said Black Mental Health Alliance?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, comment below and let us know your thoughts on what we talked about today. How do you feel we can break this cycle? Join us every Monday.
Like.
Comment.
Subscribe.
And gas us up.
Peace out.